Kyle Busch provides some updates on his 2023 plans with press conferences this past weekend at Daytona. Aric Almirola officially confirms that he will be returning to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2023 after initially announcing he retire, and Daniel Suarez will return to Trackhouse Racing as well in 2023. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to start off with the Daytona Xfinity Series sponsor for 2023. As the first day of the season for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, once again in 2023, is going to be called the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. I believe this race has been called the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300 for the last couple of years, so it's great to see that Beef It's What's for Dinner is going to continue to have a partnership with the NASCAR Xfinity Series and, of course, Daytona. It's a pretty solid company, and really excited to see that they will continue to sponsor the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2023 in the season opening race. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Princess Cruises. As Princess Cruises basically announced on Saturday during press conferences, they will be doing giveaways during the playoffs for Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez. Princess Cruises will, of course, be sponsoring Daniel Suarez at Homestead Miami Speedway. If Daniel Suarez, I believe, is able to win or get a top 10 there, I think that they'll give away 99 cruises. And I believe that if either Ross Chastain or Daniel Suarez end up getting top 10s throughout the playoffs, they will be giving away 10 playoff tickets and basically cruises for everyone to go on cruises at Princess Cruises. It's such cool to see good sponsorship Activision, and pretty awesome to see that Princess Cruises will be doing that. I think that's really solid and really awesome to see, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about T. Taylor Warren. As it was announced on Saturday morning, that T. Taylor Warren is announced he will be the 2023 Squire Hall Award nominee and not honoree, and he will be honored at the 2023 NASCAR Hall of Fame banquet ceremony in early January. T. Taylor Warren, for those who do not know, was the one who took the photograph of the 1959 Daytona 500. So, and the one that really caused some of the stirring, I think, as well with that photograph. But it's so cool that someone that's in the photography world is getting honored. You don't see a lot of photographers. I think this may be only the first time in the history of NASCAR where someone has been honored in a Hall of Fame as a Squire Hall. So really awesome to see for sure. Amazing to see, and great to see that he will get honored. I think that's awesome, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about charter teams. As it basically was reported by Joseph Strigley when he does his little Strigley facts every week, that all charter teams have scored a top 10 this season, with BJ McLeod, Cody Ware, and Landon Castle getting top 10s for the 77, the 51, and the 78 cars. Every single charter team has scored a top 10. This is the first time since the charter system started, the first season, where every charter team, has scored a top 10 since the charter system started nearly a decade ago, back in 2016. We know that the field this year has been more and more competitive. We've seen a lot more competition, a lot more drivers able to score top 10s, even top 15s this year. I mean, last year, I don't think not every team scored a top 10. So I think it's so cool to see that every charter team has been able to score a top 10. I think that's phenomenal. I think that's awesome, and great to see that every team was able to score a top 10. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Austin Cindric. As with Austin Cindric winning and making the playoffs, and with Todd Gilliland and Harrison Burton not making the playoffs with a win, Austin Cindric is your 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year. Not a major shock to me. Going this season, I had predicted Austin Cindric would win the Rookie of the Year. In fact, I think I predicted him to be the only one of the three rookies competing for the Rookie of the Year that I thought was going to win. And I was correct. He was the only one of the three that was able to go out there and win a race. And Cindric, I know people kind of said he's been disappointing. Kind of disagree. I think Cindric's had kind of a quiet year this year. He's had a lot of strong runs, and I think that's why he's been able to get the Rookie of the Year, because he's been consistent. And again, the other two haven't been as good this year. Todd Gilliland's like around 30th in points, and Harrison Burton's around 28th or 29th in points. So that's why Cindric got it, and basically he's top 15 in points and a Team Penske car. So I think it's good to see Austin end up getting the Rookie of the Year honor. It's not a major shock and not a major surprise to me that he got it done. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the 75th anniversary logo. As the 75th anniversary logo for 2023 has officially been revealed, as of course next year will be the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. This logo looks absolutely incredible. It looks very, very retro, but it looks absolutely amazing, the logo that they have for NASCAR next year. I love it. They're changing up the logos. I think they did this for the 60th anniversary about 15 years ago. So I think this is such a cool tribute that they're doing. It looks really great in my opinion. I think the logo is absolutely sick. I think it's really, really awesome and very happy to see that that is the logo. I think it looks amazing in my honest opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Brandon Brown. As after the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, after he finished fourth, after a crazy and wild NASCAR Xfinity Series race that went to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Brandon Brown was interviewed by multiple media members, and during the interview, he was very, very emotional after fourth place at Daytona. But not really emotional because he got a great run. He was very emotional because it was mentioned on the broadcast that this was the only race he had Larry's Hard Lemonade, and said that if he had won the race at Daytona, he would have had better and faster cars. Because of the fact that he did not win the race, so ended up getting fourth place, he won't have faster cars and probably will not be racing this weekend at Darlington for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I really feel terrible for Brandon Brown because it really wasn't even his fault what happened last year at Talladega. It wasn't even his fault at all. And I just feel for Brandon Brown in so many ways that this guy has a dream. He's a guy I think is really talented and really competitive and really could get it done. It's a shame what's happened here. It was so cool to see Larry's Hard Lemonade, though, get on the car and sponsor him when he raced. But it's just such a very disappointing situation what really has happened here, that basically Brandon Brown, he got upset, and I feel for Brandon Brown. The guy deserves an opportunity to compete as much as anybody in the field, and it's a shame that more likely he's going to have no chance to compete in the playoffs or compete in any races because he didn't win this race. Really unfortunate and tough, and hopefully Brandon Brown can find some money and some opportunities because he really deserves an opportunity. I think if any team like Alpha Prime, if you guys have any rides available, I think it'd be awesome. You guys would get him an opportunity to race. So, very disappointing for sure, and I feel really, really bad for Brandon Brown because he's such a good dude, and he doesn't deserve this, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Brett Moffitt. As according to one of my buddies, Casey Campbell, he posted this from the roster portal. He says that Brett Moffitt is going to be driving the 22 for AM Racing in a couple weeks at Kansas. Brett Moffitt, of course, who is not currently competing full-time in the Xfinity Series anymore after he basically didn't have any sponsorship and funding, and now Blaine Perkins generally driving the car for the rest of this season. Brett Moffitt is someone who I think is going to be really good in that truck. We saw Brett Moffitt did at Knoxville, and he was really, really competitive where issues kind of happened late. He was really, really competitive in that race. I think Brett Moffitt's going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's got potential for a top 10 or even a top 5 with maybe an outside chance of winning. I know that an AM racing car truck is kind of impossible, but nothing's impossible with Brett Moffitt. I know that Moffitt is a driver, doesn't bring a lot of funding, but I want to see him do as well as most people, and hopefully Brett Moffitt can have a really strong run in that truck because he deserves a great run, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Belgian Grand Prix. So the Belgian Grand Prix happened yesterday, an hour before the Cup race started. You had the F1 race that basically started. Max Verstappen had to basically start 14th. A lot of people had grid penalties. On the first lap of the race, chaos ensued. You had guys going 3 wide and 4 wide in corners, and then battle for second and third position between Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton got really, really ugly. Lewis Hamilton did not give Fernando Alonso really any room in the corner, and basically had contact with Lewis, and Fernando was very, very angry on the radio, and Lewis Hamilton fell out of the race. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas, he ended up having some contact trying to basically avoid Nicholas Latifi. He held on, but unfortunately got damaged, got beached, and fell out of the race. And then they would have to throw the safety car because of Lewis Hamilton stopping. Once we got back racing, Max Verstappen charged up to the field and got around Carlos Sainz on lap number 18. He actually got the lead for a second when Sainz came down the road, but eventually Verstappen just had so much more pace and speed that he got around Carlos Sainz very, very easily. And Max Verstappen ended up having like a 10-second lead, and he would easily pick up a victory and go back-to-back and extend his point lead to 93 points, and he won the Belgian Grand Prix. Verstappen, by far, I think, is a favorite easily to win the championship. He's now almost 100 points ahead. He has now a full three-race cushion and is now closing in on potentially having a 4-race cushion to lock it up early with around 9 or 10 races to go. We're going to the Netherlands, which I think is going to be really fast there. This has been such an extremely dominating season. Congratulations to Max Verstappen on picking up the victory. Great to see him get it done there, and he really had a great run, and he is the winner of the race. Congratulations to Max Verstappen. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Audi. As it was officially confirmed that Audi is going to be entering Formula One as an engine manufacturer in 2026. No details are really given on what team is going to be partnering up with them for 2026, but also Audi confirmed that they are basically going to be dropping their WEC program, the WEC program, and they will not be developing that program as they will be converting over to going into Formula One. First thing, I'm disappointed not converting into a WEC car. They're not going to have their WEC car, but because I think of how much commitment they're going to have with Formula One, I think it makes a lot of sense why they aren't going to do it. A lot of people think that it's going to be Sauber who's going to partner up with Audi, but let's talk about Audi coming back into sport. It's really cool to see a new manufacturer branding coming in. Of course, you know that Porsche is coming in. There's a lot of talk that Red Bull more than likely is going to try to partner up with Porsche for next year's. Honda is more than likely going to be leaving after 2023. But I think it's really good to see that basically Audi, and you have a new manufacturer coming into the sport. Yes, they have to partner up with an existing team and they can't form their own team. But I just think it's so cool that you have a brand like Audi coming in. I think it's awesome. I think it's great for sure. And very happy to see that Audi is coming into the sport, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Devlin DeFrancesco. As according to an article from Racer.com, they say that Devlin DeFrancesco is set to return to Andretti Autosport in 2023 for a second year, and it looks like he'll continue driving the 29 car next year as well, which is, I believe, the Harding Steinbrenner car. He will return to that car next season. I'm going to be really straight with Devlin DeFrancesco. Devlin DeFrancesco has been kind of disappointing this year. He has definitely been behind his teammates this year. I think Rossi's been better. He's already gotten a win. We know he's going to McLaren next year, Aaron McLaren SP, but he's been better. I think Grosjean's been better this year, and I think Colton Herta's been better this year. But Devlin DeFrancesco's got funding and sponsorship, and if you got funding and sponsorship in the sport, doesn't matter how good you are or not, you're more than likely going to get benefited from it. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean Devlin DeFrancesco is a bad driver. I just think Devlin DeFrancesco, compared to his teammates, he has not had performances this year. He's had a couple decent performances, but generally he's not had performances to really keep up this season. And it's been such a frustrating year for a lot of us fans of Andretti Autosport who see Devlin DeFrancesco in the car not doing a lot and are expecting him to do better, and he's just not been really able to provide that. So we need to see more from him. We really do. But if he can come into the season and improve and go in next year and improve, I think that'll be great for the sport in general. I hope he does improve because it'd be good for Devlin DeFrancesco and it'd be good for his fans as well. So hopefully he has an opportunity to improve, but I'm not sure if he's going to generally improve, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Colton Herta. So very recently, things have changed in regards to the Red Bull Academy. So something that's really interesting that started is that Pierre Gasly right now is actually the favorite to go to AlphaTauri Racing, basically go to Alpine Racing and leave AlphaTauri. And according to Helmut Marko, who basically runs the organization for Red Bull, he says that Colton Herta is someone that's on the radar, and they're very interested in potentially putting Colton Herta in one of their AlphaTauri racing cars as early as next year. That is very interesting, because doesn't Colton Herta have a contract with Andretti Autosport through 2023? So he would have to be out of his contract really early. That's, of course, if Pierre Gasly does go to Alpine. But Colton Herta, we know everyone wants an American F1 driver, and a lot of people are looking at Logan Sargent to already make that move over to Formula One next year in a Williams car, of how well he has been performing over in Formula 2. But I don't know. At this point, Colton Herta, this came out of nowhere. This was a major shock and a major surprise, because he's got a contract with Andretti Autosport through next season. So would they end that contract early? I'm not sure, and I really don't know at this point. Again, they obviously could end the contract early for Colton Herta at Andretti. He goes to Formula 1, because we know that Colton Herta, he really does want to go to Formula 1. But At this point, I really don't know what's going to happen with Colton Herta. I hope he does go to Formula One. I really, really do. It would be fun to see Colton Herta in Formula One. I think it'd be absolutely fantastic. It would be great. And I hope he does get an opportunity to come over and race in Formula One. We need an American driver. I think for you, especially for an American-based audience, I think you do have to get a driver from the United States into Formula One for the sport to see long term. So it's cool that they're looking at him. We're just going to have to see if they do end the contract early for him. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about officiating at Daytona. Now, one of the big stories, of course, with this being a cutoff race, everyone's talking about how Austin Dillon picked up the victory. But one thing that a lot of people are talking about as well is how the race was officiated near the end of the race. Rain had been a major factor all day long in the NASCAR Cup Series race. And with around 23 laps to go, rain hit the racetrack and every car basically wrecked, like 2001 All-Star race, and a lot of drivers ended up wrecking except a few, and only like 10 or 15 cars ended up finishing the race. Now, initially, I was really mad at NASCAR, and a lot of drivers were also very mad at NASCAR, saying that it was raining when the incident happened. Daniel Suarez, Denny Hamlin, Romanos were really angry, and Justin Haley at the time was really angry. Kyle Busch, on the other hand, basically said to the media, he basically said that no, NASCAR really couldn't have done anything about that. And then Justin Haley later backtracked it. Now, from all the in-car camera and stuff, it didn't look like it really started raining until turn number 1. Now, of course, there's that viral fan video that's basically going out right now, basically showing that it was raining, but it really wasn't raining that hard at the time. And it can rain in one section of the track, while it doesn't rain on another side of the track. To me, at first, I was really angry at NASCAR because I thought they botched this call. However, yes, they didn't. In this situation, this is not like 2021 New Hampshire situation. To me, it was just a very fluky incident, a very fluky deal where we had a lot of cars end up getting destroyed. But to me, in my opinion, I'm not going to get mad at NASCAR, get really frustrated at NASCAR, because in this situation, I don't 100% blame them for this situation. When the rain just all of a sudden came out of nowhere, because with Florida weather, from people we know that live in the Florida area, they said that pop-up showers can just come out of left field and they can come out of nowhere. And it really is unfortunate. A lot of cars did end up getting destroyed in this situation, but I can't put full blame on NASCAR for this in this situation. Some people were saying it was raining for 30 seconds. Some were saying it was raining for 15 seconds. At this point, I don't know what to believe, but I think I'm not going to 100% put blame on NASCAR for the situation, because they have to react to situations sometimes they're overreactive, and they played caution to win last time. It's just that in this situation, they got really in a bad and got put into a terrible position. And in my opinion, I can't put full blame on NASCAR for this. Could they absolutely do better to be quicker? Yes, absolutely. But to me, I'm not going to put 100% full blame on NASCAR for this situation, because some could say it's raining, others could say it isn't raining. So it's really disappointing what happened. A lot of cars did end up getting destroyed. Very disappointing and very unfortunate. But you're going to generally have situations like this where people are going to end up wrecking and end up crashing, and it's really unfortunate to see for sure that a lot of cars end up getting wrecked. But at the same token, same time, I think NASCAR kind of got put in a really bad position. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Chicagoland Speedway. Now, Chicagoland Speedway is once again in the news because of what Julie Geis said in a recent article that basically came out. Adam Stern also reported on this as well, talking about how she's kind of talking about the Chicago street course. Then you get a little bit later in the headline, and she says that Chicagoland won't reopen for racing until after the 3 to 5 year deal with Chicago runs its course. Now, for those who don't know, next year in 2022, NASCAR is going to be going to the Chicago street course, and right now they have a deal through 2025, but they could extend it up till 2027. So right now, Chicagoland's still in play to potentially have a race. Now, there have been rumblings and rumors that we could see a race at Chicagoland in 2023, but it seems like right now at this moment that is not going to be the case with that Kansas rumor. It's really right now that a lot of people are thinking it could happen, but some also think that it might not end up happening. Some of those rumors may have not been true, but some say they probably could have ended up being true because rumors can sometimes spread. Now, looking at Chicagoland Speedway, I think it needs to come back personally. The Chicago Speedway, with being a 1.5 mile track, is a track going to need some updates? Yes, but if it's truly going to come back in the next 4 or 5 years, if it's going to come back by 2027 and 2028, They've obviously got time to get the track set up. They've got to get some of the amenities set up at the track. But if you've got Julie Geist running the project, which I want to say is Julie Geist, I think she is one of the best in the industry. She is part of the Daytona Rising project, was part of that major renovations for Phoenix, and part of a lot of the things that have happened in our sport. And I think that's someone that is going to really help with this event. I think if you're going to have someone that's really going to be able to help out with the Chicago Street Course event, I think she's really the best for the job. But going back to Chicago, I think with how good the mile and a half racing has generally been, I hope it can be sooner than the timetable they're projecting. But I think there's a really obvious reason because, again, you think of Chicagoland, it's still in the Chicago market, so they probably don't want to have two races in the Chicago market. But I think it'd be really awesome if they could find a way to get a race at Chicagoland in the near future. So I hope it happens sooner than later, but it's great to see they kind of have a little bit of a plan for the future of Chicagoland, and I do hope there's a good chance that we could see a race at Chicagoland in the next couple of years. I don't think it's going to be for a little bit, but hopefully we'll get a race at Chicagoland in the near future. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Zane Smith. Now, we already talked about Zane Smith earlier this week that he had announced he'll be running full-time with Front Row once again in 2023, but also making some select Cup starts in 2023 as well. Zane Smith was speaking to the media this past week, and he says he plans to run 5 Cup races in 2023. He didn't just want to run all the Truck Series races. He wanted to run some Xfinity Series races and some Cup Series races as well. It's unclear how many Xfinity Series races he's going to run, but he's going to run 5 Cup races, including in the Daytona 500. Now, he reiterates he does not know what team is going to pick him up for the Daytona 500. More than likely, Front Row will probably open up a third part-time car for 2023 so that Zane Smith could run. It's unclear what team in Xfinity would let him race, maybe SS Greenlight Racing, or maybe Front Row could open up a full-time organization Xfinity, like it had been rumored they were even going to do this year, and maybe put Zane Smith in there, some of their Cup guys get involved in that as well. But one thing Dustin Albino also noted in his post, he says that Zane Smith is under contract with Front Row Motorsports with all the options and availabilities up until the 2026 season. This is definitely a major shock to me. I didn't think Zane Smith was going to be under contract that long. I knew Zane Smith had a multi-year deal with Front Row Motorsports, but I didn't realize that his deal was going through 2026. But that's really good commitment by Front Row Motorsports because Front Row Motorsports, they generally don't have this long of commitment with drivers. Usually their commitment is really short. Now, I think Todd Gilliland's probably a long-term commitment for Front Row, and they're probably going to keep Todd Gilliland long-term. But Zane Smith, Ford needs development right now, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I'm very excited for Zane Smith, though, because, like I said, I think Zane Smith is a very talented and a driver. I think that really could carry a team like Front Row Motorsports long-term. So I'm very happy Zane Smith is getting Cup starts. I think he's deserved it. In fact, he was almost going to make Cup starts this year if Chip Ganassi Racing stayed around. But I think Zane Smith getting Cup Series experience makes sense. But he's been so good with Front Row Motorsports and trucks that why just get rid of him and move him up? I think it's better to keep him around. And I think Zane Smith, the longer he stays in trucks full time and the Cup Series experience he's going to have, you got to get these guys up as quick as possible, though. But I think he could be better and ready, much more prepared when he gets the Cup Series full time in like 2024, 2025. Because I'm not sure how long Michael McDowell is going to be around. We know Todd Gilliland's going to be around long term. We don't know how long Michael McDowell is going to be around, though. So I think it's really exciting to see Zane Smith making Cup starts, and hopefully he'll do really well in his select Cup starts next year. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Craftsman. It has been rumored for a very long time, but it was announced on Friday early afternoon that Craftsman is going to return as a title sponsor for the Camping World Truck Series in 2023. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, one of the OG sponsors of the Truck Series, Craftsman, is officially back. The last time Craftsman sponsored Camping World Truck Series, I believe, was 2008. I believe they started sponsoring the series in either 1996 or 1997. But they left the sport after 2008, and Camping World took over. We already know the Camping World is going to be leaving, and Craftsman is coming back. When I hear the word Craftsman for the Truck Series, I think of all the nostalgia. I think of all the legendary drivers that raced in the series. Guys like Ron Hornaday Jr., Robert Presley, Jack Sprague, Todd Bodine, Johnny Benson, you name it. The guys that raced in this series that really came up and raced in this series and really made the series the great series. Now, hopefully one thing that can happen is that the series can really improve the racing and the quality of the racing. We can get better drivers in some of these trucks, because I think that some of the racing's been really, really bad in the truck series with the chaos, but we got a lot of young drivers. What do you expect? But seeing Craftsman come back and sponsor the Camping World Truck Series, I think is generally really, really huge for the sport. When's Busch going to come back at this one? Because I think at this point, Busch should come back so we can have the Busch Series. Because, hey, Busch has big branding in NASCAR. Why not Busch sponsor Xfinity? But Xfinity's got a really big commitment with NASCAR. I think they're a big premier sponsor for the sport as well, so they're probably not going to change that. But I think it's amazing to see that we're going to see Craftsman back in the truck series. I think that's something that's just, I think it's so cool that Craftsman is coming back and sponsoring in the Camp World Truck Series. I think that's phenomenal. I think that's generally really, really incredible. And I'm very happy to see that Craftsman is coming back in this sport to sponsor. And I hope the series can improve, but it's amazing that Craftsman's coming back. It's been a long time. They're going to be the premier sponsor for the Camp World Truck Series starting next year. It's unclear how long the deal is for them to sponsor, but I think it's so great to see that they are coming in to sponsor, and very happy to see that Craftsman will be the sponsor for the Camp World for this truck series starting in 2023 once again. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Greg Ives. As Greg Ives on Friday morning basically announced that he will step away from being a crew chief after the 2022 season, meaning that Alex Bowman is going to be needing a new crew chief heading into the 2023 season. Let's talk about Greg Ives. Greg Ives has been a crew chief in the Cup Series since, I believe, 2015 when he became a crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Greg Ives has won around 10 races in the NASCAR Cup Series. He won 3 or 4 races with Dale Jr. and also has won 7 races with Alex Bowman. He also was a champion crew chief in 2014 for Chase Elliott in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And he was an engineer for Jimmy Johnson for, I think, every single year he won a championship. I believe Greg Ives was the engineer. What is one of the reasons why Greg Ives wants to step down? He wants to step down because of his family. He wants to be there for his daughter. And he still will be playing a big role in the garage for Hendrick Motorsports. I believe he'll be basically beside Chad Knaus, and they will be working together. And I think the higher-up role, so Greg Ives more than likely is going to have a major higher-up role in the Hendrick Motorsports group, and Greg Ives and Chad Knaus are going to work together. Do I think Greg Ives has done an incredible job as a crew chief? I think that's really tough to say, because I think Greg Ives has been some of the part of the problem that Alex Bowman has generally had this year, with a lot of the qualifying issues being kind of farther back this year. I just think he's been kind of there. But I think that Greg Ives is a very, very solid crew chief. I mean, he's an Xfinity Series caliber crew chief, which is a champion crew chief in Xfinity. He's a guy who nearly got to championship 4, and I think you're going to have to look at Greg Ives, and I just think it's cool to see Greg Ives. He gets to announce his own terms out. It's a shame he's retiring, but it is what it is. Now, the big question now is what's going to happen to Alex Bowman? Who is going to be the crew chief for Alex Bowman in 2023? What about Ryan Pemberton? Ryan Pemberton's leaving Junior Motorsports. He's no longer basically running the higher up of the team. I wonder if Ryan Pemberton's being considered. What about Luke Lambert? Luke Lambert did really great in Xfinity for Noah Gragson this year. He's part of the Junior Motorsports group. It's unclear if Luke Lambert's going to go and work with, Noah Gragson at Petty GMS next year. That's something that has not been confirmed. Maybe he goes to work at Petty. Maybe he goes to work with Alex Bowman next year. We don't know at this point. But regardless, Greg Ives deserves his retirement. He's done really, really solid in Cup. He's not done fantastic, but he's done really, really solid in Cup, and I think he's done good enough to earn a retirement. Congratulations on a great career, Greg Ives. Thank you for everything you've done for Hendrick Motorsports, and congratulations on a great career. Hoping to see you back at the track one day, maybe crew chief a couple races, but congratulations on a great career, Greg Ives. And now we're going to jump on to the first of 3 major stories in today's episode, as we're talking about Daniel Suarez. As it was officially confirmed on Friday early afternoon that Daniel Suarez is going to be returning to Trackhouse Racing in 2023. Now, one thing that's really, really interesting to know is that it's only a 1-year deal, and we'll discuss why here in just a second. This is not a major, major surprise to see that Daniel Suarez is going to be returning to Trackhouse Racing in 2023. You look at how Daniel Suarez has generally performed so far in 2022. Daniel Suarez has won a race this year. He's had 7 or 8 top 10s. He's been extremely more consistent this year. He's in the top 16 in points. He's been consistently in the top 16 in points pretty much the really second half of the regular season. And like I said, he has won a race. Both him and Daniel Ross Chastain have gone out there and won races, and I think he's done really solid, and he's got a family with him. Now, going back to that 1-year deal, what's the big reason why? Well, they talked about it this past weekend, and Daniel Suarez basically said that the big reason why that he's basically only taking a one-year deal with Trackhouse Racing, the big reason for that is basically because of the fact that quintessentially is because of the upcoming TV deal. Remember, there's a new TV deal that is going to be coming at the end of next year. In fact, there's more than likely going to be announced at some point in 2023 because the TV contract ends at the end of 2024. So they're going to be looking at a new TV deal to try to kind of figure out what's going to happen. So Daniel Suarez thinks that the team is going to get more money, which I think that with the contracts, how things have been going, the teams and the drivers want more money and want more bigger piece of the pie when it comes to TV revenue. Because remember, a lot of the tracks end up getting a lot of the money. And I think that's what Trackhouse is thinking, is they think they can get a bigger piece. I think Daniel Suarez won't be leaving Trackhouse anytime soon. I'm just going to say that. I know it's only a one-year deal with Trackhouse right now, and maybe if his performance isn't great, they're going to drop him going next year. But after next year, I should say. But they're not going to drop Daniel Suarez. They're probably going to keep him long term. I think Daniel Suarez will be with the team for a long time, probably at least for the next 6 or 7 years, which by then he'll be in his mid or upper 30s. So he wants to stay long term with a team that's going to be committed to him. And I think Daniel Suarez can not only win races, but I think he'll be a championship threat at some point with this team. I really think he will be. Not just Ross Chastain being a championship threat, but I also think that Daniel Suarez will be a championship threat with Trackhouse Racing as well. Going into next year, what are my expectations? Well, first of all, going into the playoffs, I'll talk about my playoff predictions here later this week. But Daniel Suarez, I think Daniel Suarez going next year is only going to improve. I really think he's going to get better next year than he already has been this year. And trust me, he's been really solid this year. But I think Trackhouse is going to even do better than they did last year. I think their equipment is going to get a lot better. I think you're going to show a lot more pace. I think they're going to show a lot more speed. And I'm so happy to see that Daniel Suarez is coming back to Trackhouse. And it's great to see that team is really committed to him, because Daniel Suarez really did not have those major commitments from other organizations that he drove for. Joe Gibbs Racing was not the #1 driver over there. He was the #1 driver at Stewart-Haas Racing. He was basically the fourth wheel at that organization, and he did better than at least Cole Custer's done in that car. And then you look at Trackhouse, he's just done really solid with the team, and he's been able to rejuvenate his career and has been really able to save his career at a team like Trackhouse Racing. I know he has one career win. I think that's going to change really, really soon. I think Suarez will win a couple races next year. I really think he will. I think he will be an outside playoff contender. But it's amazing to see that Daniel Suarez can go out there and do as well as he has with Trackhouse Racing. And I think he absolutely deserves his contract extension. Congratulations, Daniel Suarez, on picking up a pretty massive contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. Congratulations to him on that. Well, one-year deal. Congratulations to him on returning to Trackhouse Racing in 2023. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we're talking about Aric Almirola. As it was officially confirmed on Friday afternoon that Aric Almirola is going to be returning to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2023. He and Smithfield have both signed multi-year deals, so this is a multi-year deal for Aric Almirola to return to Stewart-Haas Racing. After many indications and rumors, and after he basically initially announced retirement on my birthday in 2022, where he said he was going to retire, things were starting to really change about a few weeks ago with him, because he said one of the big reasons why he was initially going to retire from the team and retire from NASCAR was because of his family. Well, he and his family basically sat back down and he said that, yes, I want to return and continue racing for the next few years. So those retirement rumors of him basically retiring, him saying he was going to retire, those have completely fallen out the window. And it also needs to be noted that Smithfield is going to be more committed starting in 2023. They're going to have much bigger commitments, so they're going to be sponsoring Aric Almirola more than they have. They feel like they've got a better return on investment. I think one of the big reasons why he's basically kind of been told that he's going to be back with the team is basically because of the fact that he's got major sponsorship from Smithfield. And any other driver that's going to go into that 10 car that have been rumored, drivers like Kyle Busch, John Hunter Nemechek, you name it, and of course Ryan Preece, you name it, all those drivers don't really have a lot of sponsorship and funding. Yes, Ryan Preece has the commitment from team companies like Humberto's Pizza, but that's part of the KHI management. And I know a lot of people ask about Ryan Preece. What is going to happen with Ryan Preece? To me, I think Preece is going to end up in the 4-car in the next couple of years. Not next year, but 2024, he ends up in the 4-car. I think he's being lined up right now for that 4-car. Well, like I said, looking at Aric Almirola. Aric Almirola's won 3 races, and I think Aric Almirola wants to win more races. I think he wants to go out there and win a lot more races. I think he wants to win a championship. And he's not really that old, and he's really just about to reach the peak of his career, because he's only 38 years old. Like I said, He's not really that old of a driver. He's young. He would be really young to retire. So for him to stay at least a couple years, he'll be in his early 40s when he does decide to retire. But I do think that 2024 could be his last year. I think it's going to be 2 years he continues to race in Cup. I think after 2024, he will retire. I think he's going to try to win a couple races before he does retire. But Stewart-Haas Racing has been showing a lot more pace and speed, and I think he wants to go out really on top and win a championship. He's not going to be able to do it this year because he didn't make the Cup Series playoffs, but I think Aric Almirola definitely will be a threat to continue to win races and continue to do stuff behind the wheel. So going into next year in 2023, what are my expectations for Aric Almirola? First of all, I think that in 2022, he wants to go out there and try to at least close out end the year on the best note he can. I think the goal is to try to finish 17th in points. Going into next year, I think he wants to make the playoffs. I think he would love to get a win or two next year. And I think if Stewart-Haas Racing has that pace and that drive and that speed to get it done, I think Aric Almirola will have as much of an opportunity to do that. But it all comes down to how fast Stewart-Haas Racing is and how quick everything is. I think another big thing that's really helped Almirola this year is to pick up a Drew Blickenserver. Drew Blickenserver, I think, is a really underrated crew chief. He's done really good with Aric Almirola this year, in my opinion. They've brought more pace and more speed into the 10 car, and he's had a better year this year than he did last year. And I just look at Almirola, and I think what he's done this year, I know he didn't make the playoffs, but he's had a quiet year. He's been quietly having a decent year. He's in the top 20 points. He's definitely better than he was last year, but he's got to win a race at this point to try to close out the season. But I think he's got a shot to get it done, and I'm happy to say that Almirola is coming back to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2023. I think he's done solid. He has done fantastic because if you don't make the playoffs, your year's kind of over, but he probably would like to end the year on a much higher note and get some momentum heading into the 2023 season. Hope he's going to have that opportunity to do that, but we'll see what happens in regards to the long-term future of Aric Almirola, and he's going to be with Stewart-Haas Racing at least for a couple more seasons in the Cup Series. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we're once again talking about Kyle Busch. Yes, another video of Kyle Busch. What a surprise. Kyle Busch has been in the news cycle really for the last couple months. I think it's noted at this point that one of the big reasons why is because Kyle Busch is not signed for 2023. And we're in late August now. We're almost in September, and a deal has not been announced or maybe has not been signed. I do think there's a chance the deal has been signed. But the reason that the issues have been happening is because they've had issues finding sponsorship for Kyle Busch. But you also have his Camping World Truck Series team, his Craftsman Truck Series team next year that is playing a big role into that because wherever Kyle Busch does go, they're going to have to change manufacturers. Well, Kyle Busch was speaking to the media this past week, and he basically said, I have an announcement to make. He says, there is no announcement. Then he got asked a question from Jordan Bianchi, and Kyle Busch basically said very similar with the package question in 2019. Basically said that I'm not going to answer questions about that. I'm sorry, I'm not basically going to answer questions. It may benefit me or hurt me if I do answer those questions. David Wilson, later that evening, because the Cup race ended up getting postponed to Sunday, David Wilson then later was speaking to media and basically said that they are doing their best to try to find a sponsor to keep Kyle Busch. He reiterates that they are not really trying to be on the offensive. They don't want to be fighting against an angry Kyle Busch wherever he ends up. David Wilson says he does expect that Kyle Busch is going to is going to be back in the Cup Series next year. But he is really not sure at this point if he'll be with Joe Gibbs Racing or with another organization that's Toyota Pipeline. But they're doing their best to keep Kyle Busch in. Kyle Busch then went on NBC during the rain delay, and basically he kind of said the same thing. It basically said that it's no secret that we're still looking for sponsors. We're trying to find sponsors at this point. We still have not figured out something going into next year. Now, finally, after the Cup Series race and after Austin Dillon picked up his fourth career NASCAR Cup Series victory and picked up a spot into the playoffs, Richard Childress was speaking to the media, and they were asking questions from media members, including Noah Lewis, and they were basically asking of Richard Childress about Kyle Busch. Richard Childress basically came out and said something very, very interesting, and he basically said that he and Kyle Busch are on really, really good terms. Basically said that they kind of stopped having those really major issues. He said that him and Kyle are not on really bad terms anymore. Things are really good between the both of them. Then he basically had about him going to RCR, and then Richard said, you said that, not me. So I think Richard might still have that commitment for him to keep Tyler Reddick in the ride and Austin Dillon in the ride as well. Now, getting in this Kyle Busch situation, first thing, it's good to see that him and Richard Childress are on really, really good terms. Do I think that that means he's going to go to RCR? It is a possibility that he could go to Richard Childress Racing because now he doesn't really have that tension with Richard anymore, saying he's a really good driver. it's just good to see that things are on good terms, at least for both of them. But getting back to the Kyle Busch drama and the Kyle Busch saga, at this point, where is Kyle Busch going to end up in 2023? Well, there have been a lot of indications, a lot of rumors, and a lot of rumors about the potential future of where Kyle Busch is going to end up in 2023. We've had a couple teams that have really come into play. There's about 4 or 5 organizations right now that are really currently in the play at the moment. The first one, of course, is Joe Gibbs Racing. But I think Joe Gibbs Racing really is kind of out of the conversations right now at this moment. And the reason I mentioned that they're more than likely out of the conversations is not because of the fact of Kyle Busch being there. It's because of Ty Gibbs. A lot of indications, rumors, and rumblings in the industry for people like Door Bumper Clear have indicated that Kyle Busch is basically, right now is basically, they're done talking, maybe because they found a sponsor or something, but a lot of people think that Ty Gibbs is going to 18 cars, so it seems like that is out the window. Then you bring up Stewart-Haas Racing, but with the re-signing of Aric Almirola to the team, and with Cole Custer more than likely coming back to the 41 next year, very unlikely Kyle Busch goes to Stewart-Haas. I think that's off the window. I think Kyle Busch right now has 2 options outside of that. 2311 Racing and Kaulig Racing. 2311 Racing, they talked to media this past week, and they said they're not planning to expand to 3 cars. Things can change if Toyota tries to coexist and get a new charter for Kyle Busch. But it seems like right now they're committed to having 2 charters, and they would love to have Kurt Busch back, but it's unclear how long Kurt Busch is going to be sitting out. Of course, we know Kurt Busch will not be in the playoffs in 2023 despite winning a race. He won't be in the playoffs in 2023. We did get 16 winners, but basically one spot was open for a driver who basically didn't have a win, and that would be Ryan Blaney, who got in. So I don't think that's going to be where he goes. I think right now he's the front runner to go to Kaulig. Everyone in the industry indicates that Kaulig is right now the favorite for Kyle Busch, and here's the reason why. There's been a lot of rumblings. Kaulig would like to says that they have plans, and rumors, and from a lot of people in the industry, you've had so many wild rumors. You've got people basically saying that they heard stuff from people at haulers. You've got people saying that you've got Wikipedia pages changing with Kaulig and Busch. I think people are trolling on that. But we've even heard from basically Door Bumper Clear this past week saying that Kyle Busch is right now the favorite to go to Kaulig Racing heading into 2023. But at this particular point, I really don't know. I do think he's going to end up at Kaulig. I think right now he's going to end up at Kaulig Racing heading into 2023. And the real reason that I think that he's going to end up at Kaulig Racing is Kaulig Racing needs a driver that has a lot of experience. And Kaulig has reiterated they would love to have a Truck Series team. Who's got a Truck Series team right now? Kyle Busch. It's also been rumored from Door Bumper Clear that Kyle Busch, that basically GMS is rumored that they could shut their Truck Series team down. Who's got a team that would love to go over and would be able to buy that up? Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch is going to end up at Kaulig Racing next year. I really think he's going to end up there. I think there's a good chance he does potentially take an ownership stake in the organization. Now, we're just going to be waiting to see what happens because at this point, I think a lot of people like myself are just waiting for the anticipation on wherever Kyle Busch is going to go next year. But I think right now Kyle Busch is going to end up at Kaulig Racing in 2023. Again, it's not confirmed at this point that he will end up at Kaulig. We're going to see what happens, but I think he's going to end up at Kaulig in 2023. So anyway, that is going to be today's Lawn NASCAR in Motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's get some over that and comment with your thoughts on today's video. Where do you think Kyle Busch is going to end up in 2023? Do you think he's truly going to end up at Kaulig Racing in 2023 or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Aric Almirola and Daniel Suarez returning to their teams respectively in 2023? Let me know in the comments below. I've got a playoff predictions video that's going to be dropping tomorrow on the channel. We're going to be doing playoff predictions for the NASCAR Cup Series. We'll go by round and round reacting to every driver I think will make it. Wednesday will more than likely be a NASCAR news video. And then Thursday, we'll be doing race picks for the upcoming weekend at Darlington and talking about also probably some of the playoff grid going into the race as well. Friday, more than likely a NASCAR news video. Saturday, I'm not sure because I'll be working. There's a lot of content on the way as we get closer to the start of the playoffs. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.